Hey, slave. Yeah, you. Yeah, you, slave. Get to work. And then next year I'll pay you about 30 cents more. How does that sound, slave? Matter of fact, take a lunch break. Cause I don't even want to pay you. I don't even want to pay you the 4 hours today. Hey, hey, I haven't worked a 9 to 5 since what? It's been a long time, but it's not about me. That's not the point. The point is that men are ultimately treated as a utility and a tool, and they are only assigned value with the value that they bring to the table. There's no getting loved unconditionally over here with men. With men, it's really a dog-eat-dog world. So, why have 10 million men given up on work? That's one theory. Second theory is that, first of all, motherfuckers just ain't getting paid enough. So why the hell do they work? What's the point? Bust their ass just to still not have enough money left over at the end of the month. It's crazy work, man. But let's get right into it. Another day to be ungrateful, eh? Let's see what it do.
4 years ago, America and the rest of the world saw its most intense spike in unemployment in recorded history. In today's news cycle, that is ancient history. But what isn't ignored is what has been left behind. There are now over 10 million people, mostly men in America, who are not working, not studying, not retired, and not institutionalized. They are just doing nothing. COVID accelerated this trend, but it's been...
Hey, man, just living your life. I'm living my life like I'm dying tonight. Think I'm moving too fast? Only move for the cash. Keep a tool in the stash. Hey, look, man. Men have given up on a lot of things because society ultimately just tells men every day how they're not good enough, how there's no use for them. So, what do you expect? You treat the people who ultimately damn near keep the whole world running like shit. This is what's going to happen. And especially the youngins. They're the future, and you make it so they can't even feel like they have a place in this world, or they're make it so they're not worth anything. This is what happens.
Going on for decades. Since the 1960s, about 0.1% of American men have given up on work to never come back every single month. So why are so many people giving up so consistently? And more importantly, how are these people surviving without a job in this economy?
In October, Mississippi's labor force participation rate was nearly 54%, while the national rate was over 62%.
How many jobs on these two websites?
It's been over 1,000 combined.
They're not working and they're not looking for a job, and those are the folks who we have to get into the labor market.
Why aren't some Americans getting back to work? It's the million-dollar question.
There are a lot of reasons why someone might not participate in the labor force. They might have retired, they might be still studying for qualifications, there might be people who are too sick to work, stay-at-home spouses, members of the military who are clearly working but don't officially count as part of the labor force, and then of course, there are just really rich people who don't need to work to maintain their lifestyle. These groups have always existed, but there is a new group growing alongside them, which are people who have just given up. The fastest growing group of these labor force dropouts have been men between the ages of 25 and 55. Men in this age range would typically be in the prime of their careers, but more and more of...
Yeah, and it actually makes sense, though, because I'm 27. I remember when I was... And here's the thing, though. I've always actually, I've been blessed, thank God, I've been blessed. I've always had the ability to make money outside of a 9 to 5, and good money at that, you know what I'm saying? So, but the thing is, bro... Most guys, by the time they hit 25, they feel like it's all over because you get stuck in this fucking routine, in this loop of monotony. I really have to do this shit the rest of my life. So it's kind of exciting at first when you first get out of college, you get out of school, and you kind of enter the workforce, you get your own money and all that stuff. But then once you see what it really is and see the trajectory of where you could possibly go, then that's where you're like, yo, I'm really going to do this shit the rest of my life. I'm really going to be a slave and trade my time for money, show up to an employer and a boss that I fucking hate for just enough for me to survive for the rest of my life. Go figure, no wonder,
are
man.
not working at all. Now, some of this can simply be explained by the fact that more women have entered the workforce. In fact, up until 2008, women were entering the workforce almost as quickly as men were leaving it. Some men just took on domestic roles as stay-at-home husbands while their wives or partners focused on their careers instead. According to Pew Research, young women are now earning significantly more than young men in most major cities in America. Young women are also graduating college at higher rates than men. So it makes sense that a growing group of men are tossing aside typical gender roles.
What the fuck kind of use does college have anyways, bro? What world application does really college have? None. I'll answer that question for you. So here's the deal. Guys, a lot of people are like to say, oh, well, women are a lot more educated than men. How so? Because they got this useless degree, which most of them do, is get useless degrees. Anything really outside of a STEM field is, okay, that's a little too far, but you get my drift. Most things outside of a STEM field are a useless degree, okay? And at the end of the day, I know so many people who graduated college, myself included, and couldn't even find a fucking job. That's why I was able to, get into the construction business and start my own thing. But that's besides the point. A lot of people are going to college and not getting jobs, and plus college literally has no translation into the real world. So are women really more educated than men just because they're going to school and getting this worthless piece of paper that's putting them in tons of debt for? Like, our society's just jacked, man. I'm sorry.
And doing work that doesn't get counted as typical employment. If this were the whole story, there would be absolutely nothing wrong with this. But let's be honest. Having a stay-at-home parent, no matter what gender they are, is a luxury that most people simply cannot afford in the modern age, especially young people who are the fastest growing group of labor force dropouts. There is something more going on here. Nicholas Eberstadt is a political economist who published the book Men Without Work, which tracked the trend of working-age men simply giving up on work and largely removing themselves from society in the process. His book, which was first published in 2016, lines up perfectly with a 2022 study on the issue conducted by the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, which found that men without a college degree in particular were dropping out of work because their earnings power was significantly lower than their peers who did have a 4-year degree. That's not unusual, because college-educated people should expect to earn more than non-college educated workers on average. But the finding found that the gap between the two groups had widened significantly, especially amongst college-educated versus non-college educated men. Now, this was particularly surprising to the researchers because it would actually make more sense that higher income workers would drop out of the labor force, because if they are earning a lot of money, they have a better chance of marrying a higher earning spouse or just saving up more money for an early retirement. Instead, they found the opposite. The group that earned less were more likely to drop out of work. And yes, before you ask, the study did account for the fact that people not working won't be making an income, so they would automatically be in the non-working low-income group. Now, since men are now overrepresented in non-college graduates, they were the largest group of people giving up on work. But even though it's tempting to make this an entirely gender-specific issue, and to be honest, it would make for a more engaging YouTube video, there are some bigger forces at play here. The reason that people with lower incomes were dropping out was simply because they had less to lose and more to gain. Most unskilled jobs cannot buy you a comfortable lifestyle basically anywhere in America anymore. And as more people tie their identity and social status to their work and income, it's become much harder to accept unglamorous service positions. If you were given two options, honestly consider which one you would choose. You could scrape by working a few minimum wage jobs where you are on your feet dealing with customers and managers all day. A job where you are unlikely to advance too far without a degree, and you won't have much time or energy left at the end of the day to pursue side projects. You might also be working a job that you aren't exactly proud to share with your friends, family, or romantic interests. The other option is that you could scrape by on whatever government programs or family support you could find. Maybe work on some side projects in your—
And that's exactly what I was going to get into. Like, if you're making so little, and it's like the lower income earners that actually are the ones dropping out, like, yeah, you can get some Social Security checks, play video games, smoke weed, drink, whatever, do the hell you want to do. Because at the end of the day, you're actually you're enjoying your life instead of slaving your life for absolutely nothing. You know what I mean? So I truly understand why people do that. You know what I mean? But yeah, let's continue. I want to get on another
time,
point.
Or just fill your day with low-cost recreation like playing video games. I would like to think I appreciate the value of a hard day's work. but I have always had the luxury of a prestigious career and successful business. Given these specific options, how would you choose to spend your day? If you are brave enough, go ahead and share it in the comments below, so people on the internet can call
you guys as well.
a
Share
or a lazy zoomer respectively.
Share it in the comments.
Now, the second
below,
option
guys.
also has the advantage that if someone asks you what you do for work, you can just tell them that you are working on a new business or taking some time off. The Fed study found that this was one of the biggest reasons.
Man, that's another thing I don't like, bro. I know people are going to get mad that I'm pausing the video and all that stuff. Well, look, man, this is my 2 cents on this modern world. And if you don't want to listen, you can kick rocks. So look, check this out. Why do people care so much about another person's profession? Yeah, we'll bring gender into this because it makes it more interesting. So it's known that a chick would be more inclined and happy to share and divulge the information that if her partner of what her partner does, if he was a lawyer making $100,000 a year versus someone who owned their own plumbing business that was making $250,000 a year. It's crazy how much status is tied into what you do and how status is actually, I guess, has a higher value than the actual utility in which other money you make. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. So we all were born into this system. We were born into this corrupt system, especially here in America, where we're just cogs and machines. We have to work. End of the day, I don't think it's appropriate to judge anyone based off of the work that they do. Just a superficial, shallow world we live in, excuse me.
People didn't want to take on jobs that they thought were beneath them. Now, no matter what side of the fence you are on, this issue affects us all. These millions of people are out of work at the same time as we have major issues with worker shortages in our most important industries. And this trend is only going to get worse unless something changes. So it's time to learn how money works to find out how these people are surviving without work and what it means for the rest of the workforce if they never come back. This week's video is sponsored by Brilliant. Brilliant is an interactive learning platform that turns complex topics into engaging. It breaks down challenging concepts into bite-sized lessons, making it easy to follow and apply in how money works, or click the link in the description. Not working and are not looking for work are living extremely basic lives. Eberstadt's research went beyond the broader demographic studies and focused a lot on trying to figure out what these people were actually doing with their time. Now, the next few minutes are going to contain some hard-to-swallow pills, and even though Eberstadt is sometimes a bit direct with the way he lays out the facts, his research and his recommendations address some of the most important issues in our society. He found through national surveys that the average man not in work or looking for work was basically doing what you might expect. They were sitting at home, spending a majority of time behind a screen. Most of them contribute very little to looking after other members of a household, and they were underrepresented in other civic activities like volunteering, even though they had more free time than their peers who worked or studied. He also poked holes in the idea that a lot of these men had just become stay-at-home spouses taking care of chores to support their working partner, a role that was in the past typically performed by women. Unfortunately, according to the federal survey data he collated, the average labor force dropout spent an equal amount of time on household care as the average employed woman, and 5 minutes less per day than the average unemployed man, who would theoretically be spending at least some of their time looking for a new job. What they were spending their time on was leisure activities and sleeping. The average person who had dropped out of the labor force was also far less likely to have children or a partner, and Eberstadt theorized that there were 2 reasons for this. The first reason was that children, dating, and a family life are expensive commitments that people trying to get by without a job just simply wouldn't be able to afford. The second reason was that people with a family to support were inherently more motivated to go out and provide, even if it meant working a job that a single person wouldn't.
Bing, 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 bing. The dots. They're connecting. Connect 4, don't connect 4-3. Hey. So look. And that's another thing right there. So the fact that like dating and relationships are so hard, people aren't even getting married anymore. A lot of guys are pretty woke to the fact that marriage means nothing and stuff like that, and that essentially, guys don't really have anything to live for these days outside of themselves. Kind of tying back to their point, guys who actually had, wife and a family or whatnot, they're a lot more motivated to go out there and get it because they have a purpose beyond themselves. A lot of guys, even if they try hard, will not find that purpose beyond themselves. If we're talking about relationships, dating, and having kids, like look, I hate to sound nihilistic and a doomer and gloomer, but look, the reality is it's not looking too good in that regard. So that's probably another reason why guys are just saying fuck it all together. I feel you.
Of course, this is a large sample size, and there are plenty of people with children who don't work and plenty of couples totally outside of the labor force as well. But even without these typical responsibilities, daily life is still very expensive. Government benefits for people out of work typically only extend to those people who are either actively seeking work or cannot work because of an illness or disability. The exact makeup of these assistance programs varies state to state. And of course, outside of America, different countries have different levels of social welfare. But America is where this trend has been most pronounced, and it's also where a bulk of the research on this trend has been done. So as
America. I don't know, man. I don't know about this being the best country on earth, bro. I think those days are long over, and I think those days were like over before I was even born. Maybe not, but look, I think America's the best place on earth to definitely make a dollar. But, and this is the big but, you're making that dollar through a business, then there's a lot of potential, okay? But if it's a job, man, wages have been like this, inflation's been like this. So, yeah, America's, it's cooked in so many regards. Hopefully Trump helps us.
Anybody who has ever tried to apply for
Don't ever
government
depend on
welfare
the
in
president
America
to
will
help
tell
your
you the burden of proof
change
to
your
qualify
life.
for these payments can be exceptionally high, with the only real exception being COVID-era stimulus, where arguably the burden of proof for payments was too low. Saying you need unemployment payments because you would prefer to stay at home all day vaping and playing Fortnite isn't going to fly with Uncle Sam. What Eberstadt did find, though, was that it had become much easier for people to qualify for disability payments, which in most circumstances do not require recipients to be actively looking for work to maintain their payments. In his own book, he highlights how difficult it was to find consistent data on all of the government programs that might be available
there's a lot
to these
of people with
and
disabilities.
of course,
'cause I feel
needlessly
like a lot
pointing
of
the finger
people
at
in
assistance
America
to some
actually-
of society's
I'd say
most
a little more
vulnerable
than half
people
probably
is
have
not
some
the point here.
mental issues
What
because
is, though,
of the
is that
society
according
that
to
we live
data
in.
from the
It's so-
Department
it's so
of Social
trash.
Security,
It's a trash
annual
society
disability
we live in.
insurance payments have outpaced all other major programs. They provide the data as a table, but here is a nice visual line chart. Dr. Dwight R. Lee, an economist, also proposed that a major element that Eberstadt overlooked was that a lot of these men were working. They were just doing it in the underground economy, which was estimated to be contributing about $2 trillion, or about 12% of US GDP. This could include these people doing anything from working informal cash jobs to skirt tax and minimum wage laws to outright illegal operations like shoplifting or selling drugs. So the work of these researchers paints an image of this growing group of individuals mooching off friends, family, and the government, while wasting their days away playing video games or being an overall burden on society. It's not exactly flattering, but to be fair,
How come if people are just sitting at home playing video games, how is that being an overall burden on society? Oh, I know why. Because it's one less cog in the machine that is making income, and Uncle Sam is going, let me take 30% of that for us. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
there are certainly people living these lives, and with nationwide or even global demographic trends like this, broad strokes need to be made. The researchers studying this trend are actually highly sympathetic to the situation of these people, and they seem motivated to actually fix the cause of these problems. I will of course be leaving a link to the full book in the video description if you want to read it yourself, as well as some great interviews these men have done that lets them articulate their grim feelings in a way that's a bit more human. The reality is that I can personally see if just a few things went differently in my own life, I could have easily fallen into the same comfortable trap. Most of you watching could have too, whether you realize it or not.
And at the end of the day, bro, I'm starting to realize, like, life's a hoax, bro. Whether you're a millionaire, whatever, you know, successful, all that stuff, bro, like, really all that matters is just having meaningful relationships and doing the things that you want to do. Because you only live one life at the end of the day, you know? So it's just crazy that people are looked down upon because they're not following societal norms and just being NPC in the Matrix that just doing what everyone else is doing, you know, just because they want to, play video games, let them play video games. Like, what's the issue?
But this still doesn't answer the most important question. Why is this becoming more common? Most people, if given the choice, would prefer a nice stable job with an income that could provide a standard of living beyond basic survival. But yet, more and more people are dropping out of even trying to look for a job every single year. There is unfortunately no single answer as to why people are giving up, but there are some contributing factors. Firstly, competition for good prestigious jobs have become far more fierce, while pay for basic jobs has not kept up with living costs. Technology has made it much easier to isolate oneself from the rest of the world, and there are other broader social issues like the opioid epidemic that at the very least have not helped this trend. One of the most damaging factors has been the insidious myth of the skills shortage, which has led to an economy where millions of people don't have a job, but there are millions of jobs that don't have people to fill them. I am going to be writing an article about how the idea of a skills shortage has been used to undermine the traditional career path of millions of Americans over on my free email newsletter linked in the video description. Something like the rise and fall.
All right. Let's check out the comments. Let's see what it's talking about. Yeah, pretty much. 25 and 55, yeah. The entire workforce pre-retirement, LOL. Yeah. There is no labor shortage. There's a wage shortage. Bingo. The majority of humans do want to work / be productive, but the majority of humans also don't like working for poverty wages while being shit on all day and getting nowhere. Bingo. I mean, they make these fucking issues seem so complex when they're actually so simple. People ain't getting paid enough, bro. Every human operates on motivation. And every human, for the most part, is either motivated by pain or fear or whatever, all those different things, or greed, whatever. But there's no incentive to work because at the end of the day, just people ain't making enough, man. They're not making enough for it to even make sense. They're just stuck on this fucking hamster wheel. So, yeah, I mean, and plus a lot of young guys, they hip. They got the internet, all this stuff. They're hip. They know what's going on. They see the system for what it is. They see things for what it is. A lot of people back in the day, they kind of, held on to that false dream that, working 30 years for a company and all that stuff. And actually, back in the day, that actually was a possibility, and it actually worked. Could work. It could have worked. You could have a factory job and have a white picket fence, a house, 3 kids, your dog, all that stuff, man. 27-year-old HVAC technician here. The constant stress on my body and my mental state makes me think about giving up and moving back with my parents every day. The work is tough. My boss wants me to squeeze the money out of clients who have none. And when trying my hand at dating, here we go, women look down on me for my blue-collar profession. Can't make this shit up. When the reality is, the blue-collar professions make up the fucking infrastructure and all the fucking apartments, luxury apartments, everything, the clubs, all that stuff that these chicks be going to. And even the thing that is surgically attached to them, this guy right here. But, oh yeah, well, I guess this would technically be kind of like a white collar thing, but still, you get the point. Rent and food prices go up every year, but my wage stays the same. Really, the only reason why I'm working is so I don't starve when I'm 65 years old in my retirement. All right, let's read one more. Okay, here's the deal. My household brings in a decently above average income. Has 2 STEM degrees. So 2 degrees that are actually worth a damn. And has been saving for 3 years. Having no vices like smoking or drinking. Never been in a legal situation. Have not been on any vac. Not too sure what that means. Oh, vacation trips. Or living a luxury life. And only have student debt. Here we go. We can still not afford a starter home. Why would they want to work 10 times harder? Why would they want to work 10 times harder than our parents / grandparents to be able to own nothing? Yep, that's the way we're moving. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Another day to be ungrateful. I'm signing off. Peace.